Yes, hello everyone. Fáilte Rash, Goody Cúilín Media. Welcome back to a pretty special weekend preview show. We are just at the point of the Hurling Championships kicking off for 2026. We have action in the Leinster Hurling Championship, the Munster Hurling Championship, the Joe McDonagh Cup, Christy Ring, Nickey, Rackard, Lory, Meagher, all this weekend. And we also have week 2 of the All-Ireland Football Championships as well. Joined by Aaron Prendergast, and I'm behind Gaelic Games Fan TV, and I'm Shane Brady of on Cúilín. And together we've put together Cúilín Media along with Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman, and Liam White of the Faithful Podcast. Both of the lads cannot be with us this evening, unfortunately, but leave it to the two dubs, Aaron. We have this covered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very exciting weekend. I think the Munster Hurling Championship, I think it is the best of all the provincial championships across football. You know, ladies football, men's football, camogie hurling. Like, it is the best provincial championship in my opinion. Like, there's no getting away from it. I think it is. It's so ruthless. It's next level. Every game matters. There's no messing around. There's no saving yourselves for this game or that game or any of that crack. Like, it is full throttle. And the drama we get in the games usually as well is incredible, you know. So I think the Munster games this weekend, they're going to be very interesting. But look, Leinster as well is going to be very interesting. Galway, Kilkenny. I mean, are Galway going to live up to the hype? Do Kilkenny have a bit about them? Like, everyone's writing Kilkenny off, including like myself, maybe yourself a little bit as well. Like, we're all kind of doubting Kilkenny a little bit. And, you know, it will be interesting to see what they have on the cards this weekend.
Certainly will be. We have plenty of questions flying in, everybody. Thank you so much for getting involved in the live chat. If you are new on the show, do let us know your thoughts ahead of the weekend's action. We have plenty to go through this. Sean Riley said, great to join you guys. Did you guys release the hurling season preview live, or did I miss it? Thank you very much for prompting me on that, Sean. The hurling preview in studio, we're going to release it tomorrow at roughly 1 o'clock. They were thinking for that. Basically, long story, entirely honestly, I was going to put it up last night. Aaron has bounced to the bottom. But I was going to put it up last night, and just my computer basically died right in my hands. So, yeah, we have to sort that out. I'm going to sort that out tonight after this episode with Aaron, and it will be up by tomorrow. We're saying about 1 o'clock. We're going to go head-to-head with the GA Plus lunch show. But, yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go with 1 p.m. tomorrow, the Cúilín Media Hurling Championship preview of 2026. It should be something pretty special. Aaron, we had fun on that episode. There were some funny moments to be shared.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, yeah, and there is. I think there will be some interesting predictions, some interesting shouts. I think some people will certainly have their disagreements and everything else, and everything else that goes with it. But yeah, no, looking forward to kind of seeing the episode, seeing the show, and yeah, like looking forward obviously to previewing the weekend's games as well.
Disclaimer as well for anybody joining us, we recorded that episode on the 28th of March, so it's always a little bit scary when you record something basically a month ago and then watch it back and you kind of forgot what you said at certain points and what predictions you might have made at certain points, unless you go back obviously and look through your notes. But we're going to look at, Isdwell A2 saying Mo Salami. Did you see that goal? My goodness gracious. Get him in the senior team now. Get him in the senior team now.
I think so too. Yeah, why not?
He looks a baller. Also, Conor Raftery, club mate of mine, Whitehall Column Kill. He is an absolute baller as well. Tearing it up at the minor level. But yeah, we're going to get into the weekend's action. Dara Sam Maguire says, well, lads, do you think all is going to script? Galway, Derry and Meath have an advantage or disadvantage going into the provincial final, with the other semi being a lung buster and hard hitting, especially Ulster. Very interesting point. I think Derry probably aren't favourites for Ulster. I'd say people probably have Tyrone and Armagh, not Tyrone, I'm on about. Donegal and Armagh ahead of them. Tyrone obviously out of the championship. But yeah, we're going to dive into the games. Starting off, Aaron, there's only one place to start off. The repeat of last year's All-Ireland Hurling Final. What a game we have on our hands in this one. Munster Senior Hurling Championship 2026, Round 1. Tipperary versus Cork, Sunday at 4 p.m. in Semple Stadium, Thurles, live on RTE. The repeat of last year's All-Ireland Hurling Final. What are we expecting from this one?
Fireworks, I think. It's going to be explosive. It's going to be both teams going fully at it. I think, Tipperary will certainly, want to silence some of the doubt and critics that they're obviously getting in terms of a lot of people backing them to miss out in terms of getting out of Munster. And look, I'm one
Who
of
would
them.
have done that? Who would have done that now?
Yeah.
Not me or you.
Yeah, definitely. To be fair, look, for anyone who watched my own video, I did say it would be score difference between them and Clare and Limerick. And I do think Tipperary are in, one of the top 4 teams in the country, alongside Clare, Limerick, and Cork. But they're just in Munster. They're in a very difficult province, and we've saw obviously in previous seasons and everything else in terms of Clare obviously missing out as well, like last year. But look, it's going to be a very, very interesting game. Look, the Tipperary fans are going to be bang up for it. I think both will want to start the round robin strong. As we know, if you get on the back foot in this round robin, you can be up against it. And because every game is so difficult, you want to start with a win. Cork obviously lost the league final and everything else that went with it. They got a lot of plaudits throughout the league, but if they lose this game, then they are in a bit of a spot of bother. Especially with still like Limerick to come, Clare to come, obviously as well. Cork will obviously want to avenge the All-Ireland final defeat and silence some of the critics. I know they beat Tipperary in the league, but obviously the league is, you can't look into it too much. People won't remember that win if Tipperary win tomorrow or win at the weekend, as an example. So it's going to be an explosive game, I think. It's going to be interesting to see what Tipperary players start. Like, do they go with John McGrath from the start? Do they bring him off the bench? What plan do Cork have to deal with John McGrath because of the fact that he tore them to shreds in that All-Ireland final? And I think there's question marks over Cork a little bit as well. So, I think it's going to be a highly, highly entertaining game, I think.
Yeah, it certainly is. And the thing about it is, will the penny have dropped for Tipperary with that All-Ireland final win? I know that obviously they won the All-Ireland against Cork, but my point is that up until that game, they played each other in the league final. Cork won handy. They played each other in the Munster Championship. Cork won handy. That's why a lot of people had Cork as overwhelming favourites going into the All-Ireland final. And it felt like even in the first half, when Cork didn't play well, Shane Barrett took that goal away right on the stroke of half-time. Cork go in at halftime 6 points up. You're thinking they're not even playing that well. And let's be honest, Barrett taking that away. Cork are going to run home to the All-Ireland now. That's why the rumours of something happening in the dressing room at halftime, that's why they took off. Because everybody was thinking, what on earth happened that turned Cork from looking like they were coasting to an All-Ireland to falling off a cliff? And Tipperary, I think, obviously they came out in the second half with the belief that they could turn over Cork, but I bet you they didn't think it was going to be anything like it turned out to be. And we've plenty of comments flying in about that. But I just will wonder, will that be the penny drop moment for Tipperary, where now they are just no longer afraid of Cork at all? In a similar way that Cork had with Limerick up until the Munster Championship last year, where Cork beat them in the Munster Championship that time, then beat them in the All-Ireland semi-final, then beat them in the Munster final, and all of a sudden, the big games between Cork and Limerick, Cork were tending to shade it. So it'll be very interesting to see how this one goes. A2 saying, bizarre that both teams are almost unknown quantities. Tipp have a habit of dropping off a cliff after an All-Ireland win. Dublin is great, says Tipp to win it in a cracker. Tipp 222, Cork 123. Peter saying Tipp have been fair quiet. Brendan Kennelly here saying, how fellas, this one has all the hallmarks of an instant classic off the rip in Championship 2026. Game of the year contender, week 1 might be tough to top. And A2 says, with Cork, it's all about the mental side for them and that full back line. The question is, will it hold up? Sean O'Malley saying, I don't know what to make of Tipp. They don't traditionally back up All-Irelands and have been underwhelming in the league, but have so much talent and squad depth. And we're getting a lot of comments in about that. A lot of questions. Porter here. Proud Tipp man saying, a lot of flack coming out of Cork. Lots of talk. Horgan dismissive of Tipp. Donald Lowe criticism of Tipp. There's a lot of people talking about the fact that certainly over the last decade, Tipperary have intended to back up their All-Irelands well. What are we expecting from them this time?
It's a hard one to know. I think in many ways them being written off will actually probably suit them. I do think Liam Cahill will be, have the poster up on the wall. siege mentality and everything else. Like, they were written off going into the All-Ireland final, and we saw what happened. Do you know what I mean? So I think it will suit them a little bit. I think there's a few reasons probably why they are being written off. Like, obviously the younger crop that have come through, they are still very young players, and they do still need time to develop to reach their peak. And then obviously the more senior players like Ronan Marr, John McGrath, these lads, Noel McGrath, like a lot of these players, like, do they have it in them to go full tilt, to give it one more? I mean, look, they probably do. Like, John McGrath certainly seems to almost be getting better with age. In my opinion, like, he nearly seems to be improving year on year with the way things are going. But look, it is huge. Like, as someone said in the comments there, like, I think they've Waterford and Limerick away after this one. Like, and for Tipperary going away to Waterford, like a Walsh Park, like, that would be very difficult. And then Limerick, I think, is actually at the end of the league or the end of the round robin, so that will obviously be very difficult. So yeah, they need to start strong. They need to show everyone that they're still there, prove to everyone that they're still a top team. And yeah, I think they might go with a similar tactic as well. Like, they floated balls in on top of the square in terms of John McGrath, and that caused Cork massive problems. So it'll be interesting to see if they do something similar in regards to that. You'd imagine Darragh McCarthy will be on it as well in terms of frees. But look, Cork are very strong as well, and you can't dismiss the league game too much. Like, they beat Tipperary very, very handily, very comfortably. And they have big players themselves, and Darragh Fitzgibbon, and of course Alan Connolly's been in very good form as well. So I think goals will be key for Cork in terms of getting goals. I think that will be an interesting one. But yeah, like, as one of the commenters said there, I think A2, it is a very hard game to call, because it's hard to know, like, if Tipperary are at their best and Cork are at their best. I think Cork win the game, but we like, are Cork still, like, Cork looked a little flat at times for me in the league final. Are they going to carry that into this game? Tipperary were flat in the entirety of the league, nowhere near their best. But was that them saving themselves for this game? You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to know, really. But yeah, look, obviously we'll have a much bigger understanding of it come the weekend.
Ryan here saying that Cork have just edged Kerry in the under-20 clash that's happening tonight. Of course, TG Carr rolling out a ton of games live across their YouTube. I mean, best in the business in terms of the broadcasting. Sean saying here, was listening to John Milan's podcast, made a good point saying whoever loses this game will get 5th in the round robin. And Porter, one thing you can say about Porter, he does not fear nailing his colours to the mast. Look at this, Tipp by 15 points. Put it out there, Tipp at full potential, are the better team. I mean, it was quite close to being that in last year's All-Ireland final. Off the top of the head, I can't remember how many points were between the sides at the full-time whistle, but it felt like 30 points in the stadium when the game was done. But yeah, where are the key points for you, Aaron, that this game will be decided?
I think it will depend on the energy that Cork bring, in terms of their attacking intent, how quick they move the ball, how much they're on it. Like, watching them in the last couple of weeks, and even a lot of Cork fans were even saying themselves after the Offaly games, they were a little bit flat and they're a little bit lethargic in terms of moving the ball. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see if Cork do have their running game and their movement, because I think they could cut through Tipperary in regards to that. I think for Tipperary, though, going the other way, it is more of what they done last year in that All-Ireland final against Cork, in terms of getting quick ball into John McGrath. Will Ronan Marr be available as well, because we know how good of a performance he obviously had in the final. It'll be interesting with Cork as well in terms of frees, like who's going to be on the frees for them as well, because they've obviously chopped and changed a little bit in regards to that throughout the league. So yeah, I think there's some of the key points really. I think Tipperary do have Cork's number a little bit after the All-Ireland final, and they won't fear Cork, and they'll come flying out of the traps. But at the same time, you do feel like Cork will want to right the wrongs of that final as well. So it's very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how quickly a fight happens in this game. He came in, red card inside a minute last time for Darragh McCarthy. Ryan here saying Cork 119, Tipp 223. I think the key part in this game will be, number one, like a couple of key elements that we haven't quite discussed. Clon Coleman here saying Tipp for the win. Cork will still breeze through Munster though. there's a couple of key things I'm looking at. Number one, the free takers. So obviously Tipp had theirs nailed down with Darren McCarthy, and he's well used to the pressure. Cork, obviously, over the off-season, lost one of the greatest free takers the game's ever seen in Patrick Horgan. And a lot of people are pointing at, Alan Connolly's been taking them, Tim O'Mahony's been taking them, Dara Fitzgibbon's been taking them, Decky Dalton sometimes jumps on. My thing is that, yes, Alan Connolly might have done pretty well on them in the league and everything like that, but it is a roll of the dice jumping into the championship and taking them. It is a different atmosphere, and there's only going to be a couple of points between the sides, in my opinion. And I think Darren McCarthy, in terms of as a free taker, I think Tipperary are better covered in that regard going into this game. So Cork's discipline is going to have to be better, I would say, than Tipperary's. And that brings me to the next part, their full back line, where the main bit of discipline is going to have to come from. Last year, the full back line was turned inside out by the Tipperary full forward line, especially John McGrath. And he'll be, I imagine, stationed at full forward there again, where one of the options that Cork have, whether it's Owen Downey, who I personally would go with, Darragh O'Leary, or perhaps Kieran Joyce back in there, or Damien Callahan maybe is a bit of a wild card option. But they're going to have to go with one of them in at full back again, and the discipline's going to have to be perfect. Owen Downey got sent off in the final last year. That can't happen again, or else they will lose this game. Straight simple. So I think they're two absolutely vital parts. I think the atmosphere as well is going to be important. I know that it wasn't vital in last year's All-Ireland Final. I think there were more Cork fans in the final than Tipperary ones, but definitely Cork, that didn't really help them in terms of when it turned, then all you could hear in Croke Park was the Tipperary fans. But you remember the Munster clashes a couple of years ago when the Cork fans have massively overwhelmed the Tipperary fans in the stadium, and it's all been red. So it's very, very hard to call. Based off our predictions, a little bit of a spoiler for the preview that's going to drop tomorrow night at 1 p.m, by the way, guys, so keep an eye out for that. But I have gone for Tipp just to miss out in the Munster Championship, and I've gone with Cork to finish in the top two. So I have to go with Cork to win this game. So I'm going to go with the Rebels to win this by about 2 or 3 in a very, very edgy game. Lots of yellow cards, lots of talking points, lots of headlines, and we will have a lot to break down on the weekend review show. But I'm going for Cork.
Yeah, I think so too. I am split a little bit, to be honest with you. In regards to this, I could easily see Tipperary turning it on, and making it, and kind of turning Cork over. You could easily see a draw as well, but I just think based off of the league, and I know you can't look into the league too much, but Tipperary did look a lot more flat at times. And I do just think Cork will be a little bit more on it. They'll be a little bit more sharper, a little bit further ahead than Tipperary at this moment. Look, who knows? If Cork and Tipperary play again later down the line, it may be different. But I think right now I'd probably go with Cork. I think I'd give them the edge.
That comment from A2 is really, really important as well. I think the ref's going to play a big part. There's going to be a lot of incidents. There's going to be a lot of yellow card, potential red card incidents. And if he sends off Tim O'Mahony, or sends off, if Ronan Maher plays, if he sends off Ronan Maher, if he sends off John McGrath, that could turn the game on its head very, very easily. There's not much between these sides. And what happened in that final was Tipp just got the momentum and blew Cork away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you play that game again. Cork have also hammered Tipperary in the very recent time. So it's just on the day. But I'm going to go with Cork, and so are you. So 2 votes for the Rebels to start this weekend. I wonder what Matthew and Liam would have said. We'll ask them in the group chat, I suppose. But moving on to the next game then, it actually is the first game which takes place in the Munster Hurling Championship of 2026. It takes place on Sunday at 2 p.m. Round 1, Clare hosting Waterford in Portkey. This one is also live on RTE. They're giving us a feast of hurling on Sunday. And Aaron, the one thing is that I will say over the Munster Championship over the last 2 years, if there's one time you don't want to play Waterford, it's in round 1.
Yeah, it is. The only difference is at least Clare are at home, so they get the game at home. I think Walsh Park is a different different animal. Like Waterford's first home game, I think, is against Tipperary, and that's why I'd actually worry for Tipperary a little bit going to Waterford in terms of that game. But yeah, look, it is an interesting one. Like in Clare, to be fair, like they've gone about their business very quietly this year. Some of their younger players they've introduced this season have like added a bit more, I think, to the Clare panel, as well as obviously some of the more established players, as we know, in terms of Mark Rogers, who I think in particular has been phenomenal this season. He was outrageous in that league final, in my opinion. I
was delighted how well he played.
Yeah, I was absolutely buzzing, to see him do so well. Watch him now not perform in this game or something like that. Watch Waterford like turn them over, but look, it is one of them. Look, Waterford have been playing at a higher level, like in Division 1. Could that stand to them a little bit, maybe going into this? Waterford are just a dangerous team as well, because they're being written off by everyone. Do you know what I mean? Whatever about Tipperary being written off, like Waterford are being written off as well. You'd imagine they'll have like a solid chunk of the Ballygunner lads like Desi Hutchinson, Pat Fitzgerald, Ian Kenny, maybe these lads to come back in. Like, it is a mystery with Waterford how they don't get the bet. Like, you watch Ballygunner play and you watch how quick they play, the skillfulness of Desi Hutchinson, and then you look, they just, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to happen with Waterford. And I don't think it's anything got to do with management or anything, because I think it was the same when Davy Fitz was there as well. Ironically, it was probably Liam Cahill, in my opinion, who got the best out of Desi Hutchinson when he was in a Waterford jersey, kind of ironically. So yeah, like I think having those players back, like if they can get the best out of them, they might be able to do something. But I do think Clare at the same time, though, with the home advantage, I think having been knocked out last season, like a lot of people are saying it could be Brian Lohan's last year. So I think they'll want to, they'll be really nailing their colours. So, like, because the thing is, like, if Clare don't win this game, I'm not too sure to get out of Munster, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think if Clare lose this game, I've gone for Clare to get out of the Munster Championship. I've gone for them to finish in third. But if they lose this game, I will regret that prediction. Like, simply put, like, they have to be winning this game. Home advantage in the Munster Championship, you have to be winning. Like, simply put, it's the most cutthroat championship that we have in our game. As far as the whole debate about 4 teams should get out, I think that would be disastrous, personally. I know that obviously Milan makes good points about that, there's 5 unbelievable teams in the Munster Championship. Yeah, but the jeopardy is what makes it. If you play all those rounds just to knock out 1 team in the Munster Championship and then 2 teams out of the Leinster, plus then probably, I know that, we can have that discussion another day, but like, whoever plays the 4th team in Leinster could be a little bit of an uneven matchup based off the last few years that we've had. Like, the teams that have tended to finish 4th in Leinster have kind of had off years. So it's difficult to know, but I'd be saying the way it is now, as far as I'm concerned, with the provincial final losers playing 3rd place in the other province, that's perfect. That's perfect. I wouldn't change anything about it. And I'd be trying to get ready for a future, hopefully, where Down progress, Derry progress, Tyrone progress, and you can maybe move Antrim back into the Ulster Championship. Try get Mayo, Roscommon, Leitrim, Sligo hurling to take off, and then maybe Galway can move back over there, and then you've got 4 provinces. What a world that would be! But that's probably a little bit away. But yeah, that should be the goal, to get them up. And there's great work going on in all the counties that I mentioned. But that should be the end goal for where we're moving with the provincial championships and the hurling structure. But we'll more on those competitions later on as well in the episode. Porter saying Waterford win, dark horses. They have the talent. It's a big year for the Waterford manager, Peter Queally. It certainly is. Ryan saying this could be a banana skin for Clare. Stephen Bennett is in form. A2 saying Waterford do love an ambush. They certainly do. Peter saying Dacia ambush on the road. There's a lot of people saying Waterford. There's a lot of people saying Waterford. What I would agree is that I think that this is Clare's last roll of the dice to win the Munster title. And I personally think that along with the All-Ireland, but I think that they're looking going, let's go all out and try win Munster. They've got 2 All-Ireland medals. They haven't got a Munster Championship. That's insane. And I would look at that going, they're going to give everything they have to win the Munster Championship. It's just a question of like, how are they gonna look? Because when I saw the team that they put out against us, no Tony Kelly, no Davy Fitzgerald. Like, you're thinking, why are these lads not playing exactly?
Yeah.
Then Shane O'Donnell gets taken off at halftime. Mark Rogers goes off injured. Aidan McCarthy's not on the panel. Like, you kind of have this feeling around Clare, like you're not exactly sure who they're going to pick, who they're going to play. Is John Conlon going to go in from the start? Is Diarmuid Ryan going to sit at 6? Is Tony Kelly going to be back? There's a lot of questions. How fit is Mark Rogers? How fit is Shane O'Donnell? I'm going to go for Clare to win this, but I'm going to go for them to scrape it. Like 1 point win I'm going for here.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I'd probably give it like 2 or 3, but I do agree with you as well. Like, it is an interesting one. Like we are saying it feels like it's Brian Lohan's last year. I think it is the last year in his term, to be fair. But like, he probably nearly is building the team a little bit, maybe for the next manager to come in, or whether if he, does a surprise and it ends up staying on, because obviously we've saw him introduce a lot more kind of players into the side this season. And to be fair, like even players like Shane Meehan, I think have been very impressive so far this season. From a Clare perspective, Ryan Taylor as well. So yeah, no, I think I'd back Clare as well to come through it. I'm gonna say it's 3 points, but I do think it'd be one of them games where Waterford will. There'll be moments in this game where we think Waterford are going to win it. Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think Austin Gleeson, another potential wild card into this game. Jesse James here saying, as a Clare man, I would be worried for this weekend. Big questions in the back line and the form hasn't been fantastic. I think it would be interesting to see, because obviously Waterford got relegated from Division 1A and yet Clare won all of their games in Division 1B. And I think if Waterford go then to Páirc Uí Chaoimh, beat Clare, I think it will say a lot about the gap between the two divisions. Jesse James saying Lohan has another 2 years on the contract. Dublin is great saying 8-2, that was the league final, a home game. Because it was down in Munster ground. Like, Dublin never ever play down there. Clare play there all the time. But we're going for the Banner to win, but narrowly, and definitely make the fans sweat a bit. But now moving over to the Leinster Championship. This one, definitely the tie that jumps out across the weekend. Galway versus Kilkenny, Saturday at 4:30 p.m. in Pearse Stadium on GA+. They met a few weeks ago. Well, a little bit longer than a few weeks ago. But in the National Hurling League, they met, and Galway absolutely blew Kilkenny away. Are we going to see the same thing happen again, or have Kilkenny recovered enough in time?
I think Galway will win the game, but I don't think it will be as convincing. I think this is maybe a little bit kind of similar to Cork Tipperary in the sense that I fancy Cork to win that game, but I still think there'll be a lot more bite from Tipperary. The big thing here is TJ. Like, you saw him come in, was it for the final game of the league? I think it was against Tipperary. And the difference he makes to the team, it's not just the scoring, his frees. I think it's like he influences the players around him. He brings more people involved. He's able to alleviate the space a little bit for players like a John Donnelly or something like that to kind of run onto the ball, or a Mossy Keown. And yeah, like Kilkenny are kind of a bit like Kerry in the football, like in terms of writing them off. You don't want to be writing Kilkenny off too much, because they could very easily bite you in the back. And apparently wouldn't be surprised if Kilkenny won there and produced an all-timer performance and turned Galway over, because that's very in line with what Kilkenny have done a lot of times in the last couple of years. But it's also in line with Galway a little bit as well, because at times in the last 4 or 5 years when I've thought Galway are coming like under Henry Shefflin and everything else they're building, and then they put in a flat performance, and you think, what on earth is going on there? Like, you back them to win Leinster and then they wouldn't even be able to get out of competition. So Galway have flattered to deceive a little bit, but on the basis of the league so far, in terms of the newer players they've introduced, they do look a lot more well-rounded. They don't look like, they're reliant on Cathal Mannion anymore, or Conor Whelan. It looks like, Jason Rabbit, Colm Malloy, like these lads have really kind of come into the team, added a little bit more, obviously Aaron Ireland as well. So I like the look of Galway. They do look a lot more well-rounded, and I think they have a lot more to offer than Kilkenny. I think home advantage as well, I think, will make a big difference. So I think Galway will win the game, but I do think Kilkenny will certainly give a good account of themselves. And I don't think this will be like a hammering or anything like that.
Yeah. A2 asking about Hugh Lawler. I don't believe Hugh Lawler is going to be playing in this game. But then again, Peter pointing out Jason Rabbit. I haven't heard how badly he's injured, but if he's out for Galway, that's a huge blow as well. Look, the reality is, I agree with you, Aaron, in terms of like, I've learned the hard way to not write Kilkenny off. Liam Blanchfield scoring that goal was when I learned that lesson in Parnell Park in 2018 to beat us. Doesn't live in my head rent free. But I do believe that Galway have flattered to deceive before, and Kilkenny have also proved to be better than we thought they were before. So this is the type of game that, could surprise us. Peter saying, lads, did you hear Andy Comerford's comments? No one's spared. I actually didn't. But Aaron, did you hear his comments? We'll have to have a look up at them after the game. Andy Comerford, of course.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look into that, yeah.
All-Ireland winner with Kilkenny, All-Star, of course, at the start of the 2000s as well. Woody here saying Galway need to show a spine like they showed in the league final, especially against Limerick, and follow up with winning Leinster. No more excuses. They haven't won Leinster since 2018, Galway. So it's quietly been a long time. And I just look at this game and I'm going, I said it in the preview, I genuinely believe, and I'll explain why. I genuinely believe Galway are going to go 5-5 in the Leinster Hurling Championship this year, because the two toughest ties, in my opinion, that they have this year, Kilkenny and Dublin, they have both of them at home in Pearse Stadium. And I think they're going to win both of those games with the help of the home advantage and the conditions and everything like that. And they're used to playing in the ground. And then the games on the road, I fancy them to get over the line. The question is, do they get over the line in the Leinster final? And we'll come to that later down the line. Tune into the pod tomorrow and have a guess who I thought was going to make it in with them. But I do think that Galway are going to win this game. I think there was too much of a gap between the sides in the league for Kilkenny to just plug that, because now they're taking it serious. I still think Galway are going to edge it, but it will be tighter. Kilkenny will give a good account of themselves. There'll be stages, I expect. Like I can see like Mossy Keown scoring a goal in the first half or something, and everyone being like, shit, here we go, Kilkenny are back. But I think Galway have enough to hold them off, and I think Galway win this game, something like 26 points to 120. I'm going with a Galway win. What are you going with?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think Galway overall, I think Galway will pick off scores a lot better, and they'll make use of the space a lot more, and we'll have just a little bit more threat than Kilkenny. There's a few more. I know Galway have one or two injuries, as we said as well, but like Kilkenny, there's a few unknowns with Kilkenny in terms of, like, with TJ now and Cody, we know how good they can be, but will Mossy Keown have the same form as last year, as an example? There is question marks over some other players as well in terms of will they play or will they not. So, yeah, I'm going to back Galway as well.
Yeah. Peter's saying here, he tore shreds off the team. This is Andy. Tore shreds off the team and questioned the lads in Oz. He said some of the Kilkenny lads need to stop polishing their all-stars. I don't understand why people come out with that shit. I really don't. That's the last thing they need heading into the championship.
There is weirdly a lot of Kilkenny.
The same shit. It was the same shit last year with Darragh O'Shea coming out and slamming the Kerry team. Like, why do people do that? Like, especially at their own county. Like, I don't get it. It's a really weird mentality. You should support your county, not hammer them, not slate them. Back the team. That would be my statement. Because the reality is, he's saying there Kilkenny should stop polishing their all-stars and all this stuff. I mean, Kilkenny, it was kind of easy for him to say. He was in a team with generational Kilkenny players like Henry Shefflin and like Eddie Brennan and Charlie Carter and all these guys. This Kilkenny team isn't as talented as the Kilkenny teams that he was on in the past. Plus, I would argue the competition is higher today than it was at the turn of the millennium. You've got Limerick, you got Clare, you got Cork, you got Tipp, you got Galway, who in my opinion are better as well. So to act like, oh, well, they don't care, they're not trying. The standard is higher, number one. The standard is higher. It's more difficult to win an All-Ireland. You telling me Kilkenny in 2022, when they scored 226 in an All-Ireland final, they just lost to a generational Limerick team? Or were they busy polishing their All-Stars in that All-Ireland final? I just don't understand. You will never catch me or Aaron or Matthew or Liam slating our own county. That's just not going to happen. We'll speak honestly about how we see things as fans, and like, maybe I'm not feeling too, like, about the Dublin footballers, for example. I'm not feeling very confident. I think maybe we're going to head into a spell where things won't be as successful as they have been over the last few years. But I would never come out, and neither would Aaron, would never come out and go and take pot shots at players and stuff like that. I don't understand that mentality. But Yeah, on this game, we'll move on now. Speaking of Dublin, it's time to put our money where our mouth is. Offaly versus Dublin, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. in O'Connor Park. This one also on GA+. We're not talking to Liam until this game is done. What are we thinking about this one, Aaron?
Yeah, look, it's a nervy game, because maybe we won't spoil any predictions, but we Dublin have to get out of Leinster at the bare minimum. Whatever else happens after that, they should be going to try and win the Leinster Championship, in my opinion, given recent years and the progress and everything else. But look, Offaly have been a bit of a bogey team for us. They beat us in the league last year, even in that game in Parnell Park as well. Like, that was a very close game, and Offaly probably on another day could have beaten us that day. I know Offaly have had injuries and everything else, and a few big players missing, and maybe they're coming into this game in a little bit of a different mindset, given the fact that they lost every game, obviously, in Division 1A, and obviously will be taking their place in that division next season. Sorry, Liam. But that's obviously, so it's going to be interesting to see. Offaly might be a little bit more wounded going into this game. And fragile, and if we get a good start, we could end up beating them comfortably. But look, we've been very good in these type of games. I think in the last, other than that Offaly game in the league, we beat Carlow fairly convincingly. We beat Antrim fairly convincingly. We beat Kildare. The game that game was over after 20 minutes. I was at that game. So I think that's the big thing for us here. Look, we know that score difference could be a big part to it as well. Because that always tends to matter in these championships, with there being so few games. I know it is a head-to-head rule, but very often you have three teams that finish on the same point, so that could be key. So yeah, I am going to back Dublin to get over the line. I do think we've far too much firepower with Keane O'Sullivan, with Donald Burke, John Henderson. You imagine start. Be interested to see if Sean Curry's back for this game. So yeah, I think Dublin are going to do it, but it is a bit of a banana skin game just because of recent meetings. I'd be a little bit cautious, and I'd be worried that this will be the type of game that if we don't put Offaly to bed early, they'll grow in confidence. And with it being in Tullamore as well, like, their fans will be absolutely bang up for it.
Yeah, no, they will be, no question. The thing I'm fascinated by is Liam Rush's return. I just look at that situation and go, Liam Rush is not coming back just to, make a few more appearances for Dublin. Like, Neil O'Callaghan was his manager at Nafina when they won the All-Ireland, in the All-Ireland Club Championship, so I should make that clear. And yeah, I think O'Callaghan knows Rush really well, and the two of them have obviously discussed it, and something is there for Liam Rush to go, yeah, do you know what? After not playing in 4 years, I think it is for Dublin, I'm going to come back now. Something is going on that Liam Rush wants to be part of. Something is going on that Owen O'Donnell wants to be part of, hence why he returned. Something's going on that Keane Boland wants to be part of, hence why he returned to the panel. There's Davy a lot going in the right... What? Who?
Davy Keogh as well.
Davy Keogh, exactly. There's a lot going on in the team that a lot of people want to be part of. A2 saying, got to be winning this off. We are missing a few players. I'd back us by 5 or 6. Ryan saying Dublin by 11, 127 to 19 points. Peter saying Dubs on the road. Can they turn around the away streak? They should take a lot of confidence from the Clare game. Sean saying you would expect Dublin to win, but Offaly at home could be a tight when I predict Dublin to prevail well overall after a cagey enough first half, but eventually pull away. Peter saying Offaly at home is the grain of rice, gonna go for a draw with the late drama. Making no enemies, Peter, on the pod between myself, Aaron, and Liam. But A2 also saying, face it, lads, we're a hurling county now. I don't mind that. We've had our success in the football. I don't mind. If we can pick up a Liam McCarthy, I'll certainly take it. But I think when you look at it, the one thing that a lot of people haven't spoke about in the run-up to this game is last year we played Offaly in Parnell Park and it was razor close. Like, we were very, very lucky to get out with the win that day. However, I think we've learned a lot from the Cork game in last year's semi-final, and I'm going to present my hypothesis to you now. So, if you look at the All-Ireland semi-final against Cork, I think they would have looked at our win over Limerick, and I think they would have gone, Dublin beat Limerick because they got their tails up and they got confident. So Cork, in the first 15 minutes, I will admit this, it was a very painful first 15 minutes, they stamped all over that confidence before it ever got the chance to grow. Smashing the back of the net 4 times. I think if you look at the way that Dublin have won in the league, especially away to Antrim, at home to Kildare, games that could get tricky if you let them get confident. Do you get what I mean? if you let them believe that they could beat you. You look at the amount of goals that Dublin have put up in those games. Like, Dave, I think that we've taken a leaf out of Cork's book that when you are the favourites, stamp your authority on the game in the first 15, 20 minutes. I think if we win, I think we dominate the first 15, 20 minutes and put our stamp on it. I think if we don't, it could get very cagey. Because as you said, I do believe if the Offaly fans are packed out in that stadium and they get the whiff that it's on, it could get pretty cagey pretty quickly. But I'm going to go with the Dubs to win. Same as yourself. Last comment, Niall O'Callaghan is cooking. Maytu says we've improved and Offaly have gone backwards since that though. And lads, what do you predict Hedgehow will score in the Leinster Championship? Plenty of goals, hopefully, Peter. Plenty of goals. We'll move on then to the final game.
9 goals. 9 goals.
9 goals. Right. Put money where your mouth is. Peter is saying 4-10 is what he's predicting Hedgehow will score. As long as he scores a goal to beat Kilkenny in Parnell Park, I don't care. Kildare versus Wexford then. Saturday at 6:30 p.m. in St. Conleth's Park. Liam has a bombshell prediction. I'm not going to say what it is, but it involves Kildare beating Wexford in St. Conleth's Park. I just can't get it out of my head though, Aaron, that when this game was played in the league, the last game that both these counties have played, Wexford ran out very comfortable winners. I can't see it turning around so quickly. I think Wexford win this game. Maybe not as comfortably as before. I think Kildare will put up a good fight, but I am going to go with Wexford by about 6.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like it's kind of hard to know because Kildare, like I saw Kildare close up in the flesh against Dublin, and Dublin, as I said previously, it was a completely different Kildare to what we saw against Clare. And, even in some of the other games, like when they beat Antrim. So it's kind of hard to know. It feels like Kildare have had maybe games they've targeted. And maybe with the fact that they were already safe against Wexford. I know there was an outside chance that they could have got promoted, but I do think they were probably looking at things a little bit realistically and everything else. So it's a hard one to know. I think if Kildare can stick in the game and battle and keep themselves in it, they do have a chance. Because Wexford, I do think, are quite fragile. And we saw in games against Antrim and both down that they were a little bit fortunate to come through those games. So I do give Kildare a fair opportunity if they're absolutely at it, but I do agree with you at the same time. I don't know if there's enough there at this moment to turn it around.
If they're at their peak, I think they can. Yeah. If Jack Sheridan, James Burke, Jerry Keegan, David Qualter, the Boren brothers at the back, if they're all on it, they can beat Wexford. I'd be confident in that. Yeah. It's just a question of is it going to fall for them? Because A2 put a great comment in there. Wexford have had a calamity in them for the last 2 years. They have lost games that nobody really expected them to lose. And the main one that jumps out was when they were cruising at halftime against Westmeath. And then Westmeath just turned the game around and beat them. So if there is a team that has a calamity slip up in them, that Kildare can take advantage of based off evidence over the past 5 years, it is Wexford.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I think we saw in recent seasons, with Wexford, obviously with the defeat to Westmeath as well, that's obviously a big one that kind of stands out. So it is possible. It's in Newbridge as well. The Kildare fans will be up for it. Kildare have been pushing towards this as well. First game in the Leinster Championship, they'll want to obviously show to everyone that they belong in this as well. And it's a big game for Kildare if they want to stay up as well. In terms of games where they can get points, it's probably this and Offaly, really, if we're being honest. Do you know what I mean? They're probably not going to get points elsewhere, in my opinion. So first game, you get 2 points on the board. I think it's Offaly on the final day. Just gives them a massive opportunity, gives them a chance. But I do think Wexford, with Lee Chin in there, I think they are so reliant on him, but he is so good. He's a phenomenal hurler. And he does so much, and I don't know if Kildare will be able to handle him. And to be fair, I think Simon Roach has also been very good this year as well. So I think it'll be close, but probably Wexford to do it maybe by, I'd say, 4 or 5 points. But I think Kildare will be in it probably until the final 10 minutes. Yeah,
I'm going to go with Wexford to get out with a fright. I think that's what I'm going to go with. Sean says Wexford every year lose to a team like Kildare, Carlow, Antrim, and they're far too reliant on Lee Chin. It's not really a bold prediction for Kildare to cause an upset and put, Boren. Like, I mean, in terms of a man marker, Ian Boren or Keane Boren, whichever one takes him, is a fantastic defender. Did you see the video of Lee Chin doing the keepy uppies with the golf ball on the golf stick? Just outrageous. The fella can just. And when he did the ice hockey, he was really good as well. Like, he's probably the smartest.
Is he a footballer as well?
Yeah, he played football for Wexford at inter-county level. I don't know if he played any soccer or anything. He looks like he has the build. He could play rugby.
Yeah.
Literally. Literally a definition of an all-rounder, and seems like a gent as well to boot. But anyway, that's our predictions for the Leinster Championship. Also, we're going to move on now to the Joe McDonagh Cup. It kicks off for 2026 this weekend, and these are the fixtures in round one. Aaron, let me know what you think. Antrim host Down Saturday at 1:30 p.m. in Dunloy. Bit of a spice to that one, obviously, as Down beat Antrim in the last round of the National Hurling League. A Leinster derby as well. Carlow hosting Laois Saturday at 6 p.m. in Cullen Park. That's a huge one. Remember, Laois beat Carlow at the death to go to the Joe McDonagh Cup final last year. And then London host Westmeath Sunday at 1 p.m. in Ruislip. London, of course, Christy Ring Cup champions last season, up to the Joe McDonagh this year.
Yeah, so I'll go with Down to beat Antrim. I think they'll get over the line. They beat them obviously a couple of weeks ago. I think they're a little bit more consistent at this moment. I think Antrim just seem to have a bit of a flake in them in terms of performances and everything else. Does feel like the end of the Davy era a little bit. So I'm going to go for Down there. Going to go for Laois to beat Carlow. Probably game of the weekend in terms of the Joe McDonagh, two best teams in the competition, in my opinion. London versus Westmeath, like, I have a weird feeling that London can do something in this game, weirdly. But at the same time, Westmeath beat them very, very convincingly from what I remember in the league. So I will go with Westmeath, but I do think that could be a scoreline that you look at and think, what on earth has just happened there? But I will go with Westmeath.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Antrim to get revenge on Down for that league defeat. I'm going to go with Davy to absolutely have them fired up. And in Dunloy, they have the home advantage. I'm going to go with Antrim to win that. Carlow and Laois, I'm going to go with Laois to win that one, even though it's in Cullen Park. I think Laois are in better form. They absolutely smashed it in Division 2. And I think their form will carry them through this game. And then the London Westmeath game, even though it is in Ruislip, I think it will be tricky for Westmeath because obviously the form that London have been in. And then, of course, fresh off the back of Christy Ring's success last year. But I think that Westmeath are going to beat them, even though it's in Ruislip. And that brings us on to the Christy Ring Cup, round 2 of that competition. And again, what do you make of these games? You have Roscommon facing Meath Saturday at 3 p.m. in Dr. Hyde Park. Wicklow face Derry Sunday at 12:30 p.m. in Aughrim. And Kerry hosts Donegal Sunday at 1 p.m. in Austin Stack Park.
Yeah, so for Roscommon Meath, I go with Meath, I think, to win that. I think they are just probably a bit too far ahead of Roscommon at the moment. Wicklow Derry is an interesting one. It's actually a double header with the Dublin Wicklow football game, so I actually might get to see a bit of this, potentially, depending on if we can find the venue, okay, and we don't get lost on the way there. I have been there before, to be fair, but it was a long time ago. But yeah, look, do you know what? I'll go with Wicklow, keep the locals happy, and then Kerry Donegal. I think that'll be fairly convincing for Kerry. Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Meath, Derry, and Kerry. That's what I'm gonna go with in those 3 games. The Nickey Rackard Cup then round 2. Fermanagh host Armagh Saturday at 3 p.m. in Brewster Park. Sligo host Louth Saturday at 3 p.m. in Markovich Park, and Mayo host Tyrone Sunday at 1:30 p.m. in McHale Park.
Yeah, so I go with Armagh to beat Fermanagh. I think I'll go with Sligo to beat Louth. Mayo Tyrone's an interesting one because Tyrone got a big win last week versus Sligo, so it is, you would fancy Mayo to win it, but keep an eye on Tyrone. They could do something in that game, and obviously when you see Mayo and Tyrone, you're so kind of etched in seeing that as a football game. Obviously a hurling game this weekend, but yeah, I will go with Mayo to do it.
I'm going to agree with you on all 3. I'd be very nervous though, because Tyrone's win over Sligo last week was really, really impressive. They rattled in 4 goals and absolutely were worthy of the win. So yeah, I'm going to go with what you went with there, and moving on then to the Lory Cup round 2. We have Lancashire hosting Leitrim Sunday at 12 p.m. in Port na HÉireann. That's a double header with Warwickshire against Longford on Sunday at 2 p.m. And then we have Monaghan versus Cavan Sunday at 1 p.m. in Clonus.
Yeah, so I'll go with wins for Leitrim, Cavan, and Longford. I think all away wins.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one there. I think Cavan had the team, surprise, that I picked to win the Lory Cup. So I am going to go with them pretty much in every game that they play, unless it's the last round and they have already confirmed their final place. But that is it for the hurling preview. We have 6 games to preview in the Men's Senior Football Championship in Ulster and in Leinster. Aaron, again, some absolute crackers to look at here. We're going to start off up in the Ulster Championship. Derry host Antrim Saturday at 5 p.m. in Celtic Park. This one's live on BBC. What are we expecting from these two sides?
Yeah, look, I think we would imagine Derry win the game, and I think it will be fairly convincing from a Derry perspective. Antrim are coming in with a bit of form, though. Like, they've won their last 4, albeit they didn't get promoted. And I think Antrim might look at maybe what Cavan did on the final day versus Derry, where they were able to keep in the game and maybe cause a couple of problems. But Derry, I think Derry, especially at home, you saw what they were able to do to Cork. You saw what they were able to do to Offaly. If they're on it here, realistically, I think this could be probably one of the most convincing wins in terms of the football games this weekend. It could be 15 plus. It could even be more than that. There is a part of me that thinks that Derry maybe won't be at full tilt, because maybe they might be saving the best version of themselves for further down the line. And they won't need to be at their best here, in my opinion. But look, you have to praise Antrim in terms of their recent form. And I remember them against Armagh last season. They gave a very good account of themselves in that game. So I think it'll be an interesting one. I think Derry will win convincingly. I think probably by 12 or 13 points, but I do expect the likes of Roy McQuillan and maybe a few of the other Antrim lads to cause a few problems.
Yeah, I think it will be kind of like the Armagh game last year, in my opinion, where Antrim kind of bloody up their nose at stages. But I do expect Derry, especially with home advantage, to come out relatively comfortable winners in the end. This one, a lot more difficult to call, though. Monaghan versus Cavan, Sunday at 3 p.m. in Clonus. This one is also live on BBC. And again, it's the type of question of how much will the leagues come into play here with this one, because you have obviously Division 1, Monaghan relegated from Division 1, very, very disappointing league campaign, whereas Cavan then on the flip side, Cavan were right in their games, especially in the early rounds, and it looked like the whole Dermot McCabe thing with Westmeath was replaying again with Cavan, where they were going to go down potentially. They were lucky to not get relegated. The game was there. If Kildare had done their job on the final day, Cavan would have been relegated. So two teams that had disappointing league campaigns, now they're matched up against each other in Clonus. Cavan have actually had the better of this clash over the last few years, but what are we expecting this time?
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. Cavan, as you said, they obviously beat them the last time. I remember, obviously, the year they won the Ulster Championship in 2020, they beat Monaghan in the preliminary round that season as well. So, Cavan do have a good record against Monaghan. It is a very unusual one, because both teams are coming in bad form. You would expect that there would be a bye from Monaghan in terms of Gabriel Bannigan and everything else, but I do think some of his comments was a little bit strange, saying that if they were in Division 2, they would have been relegated to Division 3. I think it will be low scoring.
I'm sorry, it's the word pony. That word always cracks me up, man.
Do you know, I think this game might be a bit pony, to be honest with you.
No, don't, man. You'll make me. All right, back into it. So
back to professional mode.
All right.
Look, I think Monaghan will win the game. I do think they'll win it, to be fair. I think it will be I think it'll be low scoring enough, because both teams are coming in bad form and everything else, not playing their best. There might be a lot of mistakes. There might be a bit of carnage and everything else that might go with it. But I do think Monaghan will do it and get over the line. But at the same time, Cavan could come close. Cavan could come close.
I think they're going to win. Genuinely, I think Cavan are going to win. I think once as Liam said when we were on the preview show, once you're in a downward spiral, you are in a downward spiral. It's very, very hard to arrest that tide. Sean said yes, ponies, but it's just I've heard so many proper thick Dublin accents saying the word pony, and anytime they say it, it always cracks me up. Especially if they're like, oh, they're pony or he's pony or all this. Like once someone says that, I cannot stop laughing. Like I always like that's why I had to get off screen there for a second. Is just absolutely dying laughing. But yeah, we're going to move back into the games. I think Cavan are going to win this personally. I think they showed more fight. I think that's the thing. They showed more fight than Monaghan did in their games. It's not just the result. It's the fact that they were losing badly. Like they were losing very ugly. And I think it's very, very hard to turn that. Ryan saying my prediction is Paddy Lynch with 110. Sean saying I'm from Luton. Maybe there's an accent barrier. I don't know. With the pony is used plenty in Dublin as well, my friend. But yeah, we're gonna move over now to the Leinster Senior Football Championship quarterfinals, where we have a real bumper lineup of action here. I think there's one common trend across the board. 4 of these games going into the championship, when the championship draw was made, you would have looked at them and you would have gone 4 clear favourites. However, over time, a lot has changed. I'm going to start off actually backwards in terms of time. We're going to start off with the one that I think is the most dangerous for the favourites. Kildare against Laois, Sunday at 3:45 p.m. in St. Conleth's Park. Laois proving against Offaly that they're in good nick right now under McNulty, winning that game by 9 points. Kildare got relegated along with Offaly. What are we expecting from this one?
Yeah, there's definitely a chance. All right, like the last time these played in a championship game, it was in the Tailteann Cup, and Laois actually won that game. I think it was the last game of the Glenroy era, and everything else that went with it. But yeah, like Laois are coming in good form. They beat Down a couple of weeks ago as well, albeit Down were already promoted. Evan O'Carroll's in brilliant form. Paul Kingston, Killian Roach, I think, is a phenomenal goalkeeper as well. He's a player who can kick 2-pointers. Excellent on kickouts as well. So Laois are coming in with confidence, and Kildare did look fragile at the end of Division 2. They were not the same team at the end of the league that they were at the start of the league, in my opinion. And we said it before, it just hasn't really, I don't think it's really clicked for Kildare under Brian Flanagan. Like I think when you look at the last 2 years, I know they won the Tailteann Cup, but like they fell over the line really against Limerick. You know, like in that final, they lost to Offaly twice in Division 3 in the league, once in the final. So it is a young team, and that's why you would say, and obviously Brian Flanagan's a young enough coach as well in terms of it just being a second season managing the senior team. So you give it time and everything else, and you wait for the players to kind of, you know, you wait for it to click. But it's hard to know. Like with Kildare, every couple of years there's another big star forward. It's Jimmy Hoyland, then it's Derek Kirwan, now it's Brian McLaughlin. Obviously in previous years it was or Daniel Flynn. You know, so like there's a lot of chopping and changing within the Kildare team, and it's hard to kind of know what you're going to get with them at the best of times. But at the same time, at home in Newbridge, Laois haven't played last week as well. I do think Kildare will win it, but this is certainly one that I think does have a serious chance of an upset. Yeah,
I'm going to go for the upset. Genuinely, I'm going to agree with Sean. Sean says Laois to cause the upset. Kildare, like Monaghan, have really flattered to deceive. And Laois are coming in confident with a feel-good factor. A 9-point win over your local rivals in Offaly, like the confidence that would give to the camp. I'm going to go with Laois to cause the upset in this game. And then moving on up in terms of what game then is next up on the list as a potential shock. And I mean this with great respect because of how well they played against Down in that Division 3 final. Louth versus Wexford, Sunday at 2:30 p.m. in Cullen Park. So neither side has home advantage in this game. Now, Louth are favourites, without question. But we saw clear evidence in that league final that Wexford can definitely take it to the team when they're the underdogs.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Wexford, to be fair, like when they played Louth a couple of years ago, they gave them a really good go. And they created a couple of goal chances and everything else. So yeah, it is it is one of them as well. Well, Louth might be thinking about the dubs and everything else in a potential semi-final. Obviously, Dublin have to do their business as well. We'll get onto that, but they could be thinking a little bit ahead. But look, they have to be wary because Wexford have players who can do damage. As you said, they were very good against Down. They'll stick in this game with players like Mark Rossiter. They have players who can do damage. They're so well coached as well, like the way they move with the ball, they're running off the shoulder. I think John Hegarty has done a phenomenal job with Wexford, in my opinion. He's been one of the coaches of the year, one of the coaches of the last couple of years, I think. He's been very, very good in terms of what he's been able to do with Wexford. But look, Louth are Leinster champions, and some of the newer players they've introduced, as we've said, they do look, I think there's an argument that they do look better than last season. They're a little bit more well-rounded. And I think Louth are used to these type of games now. They are becoming a bit more of a seasoned team who know how to come through these. So I think Louth will do it. I don't think it will be as close as Kildare-Laois. I think Louth will be able to be a little bit more comfortable towards the end. But Wexford do have a chance of causing a few problems, though. There's no getting away from that.
I agree exactly with what A2 said. I think Wexford will ruffle some feathers, but I think there will be a gap. And I think Louth will beat them. Louth 222, Wexford 116, says Sean A2. Whoop. Have something popping up. Now I'm back. A2 saying Louth are a solid, savvy unit now. They won't take Wexford lightly. So I had a call that popped up there. But Wexford for Tolchin, says Peter as well. I do look at this and go, do you know what? Louth could definitely showcase in this just how much their levels have upped, that they're not a team that you can catch with a scalp as well. Someone was great saying Louth 116, Wexford 13 points Louth to make it pretty boring in the end. I'm going to go with Louth by about 6 or 7 points is what I'm going to go with in this one. But moving on then to the next game where we could potentially see an upset. You're going to this one. It's in Auckland. Wicklow versus Dublin, Sunday at 3 p.m. Wicklow obviously really burst Carlo's balloon, obviously, after Carlo got out of Division 4. It's the same fixture that we had last year, and a lot has changed since then. It's not Dessie Farrell's Dublin anymore. It's Jared Brennan's Dublin. A lot of key players since then have retired, like no John Small. Players like that are massive. What are we expecting going into this one? Personally, I'm just going to come out and say it. I do think we're going to win this game relatively comfortable. I do believe that. But what are you expecting as someone on the road?
Yeah, I think it will be comfortable by the end as well, but I think it will be similar to what we said with Wexford Louth. Like Wexford will ruffle the feathers allowed, and Wicklow will do similar here to Dublin, I think. They did it last year. There was 9 points in the difference between the two teams last season. I think Wicklow were only like a point or two behind the half time. I wasn't at the game last year, but I remember keeping an eye on Scorpio and seeing the highlights, and it was a little bit unusual kind of seeing the score lines coming in and everything else. I do think a few things have changed since then. I think Dublin didn't have the motivation in Leinster last year. I think they did take Leinster for granted last season. I think that carried on into the Meath game. So I think they need to go full throttle in terms of starting this game. I've seen the team actually got announced. The likes of Con O'Callaghan's in the starting 15. I think Evan Comerford has been chosen to start as well. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he does start or whether they go with Hugh O'Sullivan, who in my opinion I think has looked a little bit better as Dublin's goalkeeper so far this season. So yeah, look, it's Wicklow have never beaten Dublin in the Senior Football Championship. There we go. Dylan's getting Dylan's saying it. Sure, why not? You got to back your own side, I suppose. I do think Dublin will come through. I think it'll be a 6-point win.
I think we're going to win by 10. Now that will come back to bite me if we lose, but I can't see us losing this game. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think it'll be one of them where we're probably 8 or 9 points up and Wicklow get a goal at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like I do think we'll be comfortable enough to do it. But yeah, Kerry fan, I suppose.
Yeah, A2 saying Hugh O'Sullivan robbed. It'd be very interesting to see what Team J goes with, but I personally think this is kind of a prediction that I made in the live show as well. If you caught that, but I was saying that I think Dublin will be seriously pissed off at all the talk about them being the third best team in Leinster overnight. And I think we're going to come out. I think we're going to make a statement, and I'm going to go for us to win by about 10 or 12 points. If Wicklow win, it's one of the biggest shocks we've seen in the last decade, in my opinion.
I think it would be the biggest shock probably since Leitrim won Connacht or Clare won Munster.
A2 saying Fenton in the studio is just depressing. It really is. Just please, Brian, come back. Like literally, there's a
bring a
Brian
pair of
Fenton
boots in
plays
case.
hole in the middle of the field. Like, but yeah, the final game then that we're going to preview this weekend is the clash of Meath and Westmeath, Sunday at 2 p.m. in O'Connor Park. This one will be very interesting. When these teams clash, usually there's fireworks. I mean, remember the game in 2015 with John Hesson burying the net as Westmeath finally beat Meath. And since then, the clashes have definitely never really failed to deliver. What are we expecting this time?
Yeah, look, in maybe 3-4 years ago, you would have said Westmeath have a chance. It does feel like Meath have kicked on hugely since then. Like they've gone on to a completely different level. So it's going to be interesting to see what Westmeath can bring to the table. Look, they beat Longford very convincingly. They scored a lot of goals. So that will give them a bit of confidence, maybe that they can catch Meath out a little bit. But look, I think Meath should be too strong. It will be interesting to see with injuries and everything else in terms of where they're at with players like Matthew Costello and so on. But I think Meath should be far too strong, in my opinion, in terms of, I think James Conlon probably starts this game. They probably rotate a little bit. Like you probably see like Connor Duke and Rory Kinsella. These lads play. Sean Emmanuel maybe as well might come in for it. But I think Meath overall should be. I think this, on paper anyway, definitely looks the most convincing victory. But at the same time, I do still think Westmeath will cause a few problems.
It's a very interesting comment there by Ryan saying was actually at Pearse Park the last day. I know Westmeath hit 5 goals, but the defence was rubbish. Like Longford didn't give them much of a fight that day. Said, don't think you can carry much from that game into this one. They're up against a completely different beast in this Meath side. I'm going to go with Meath to win this. I'm going to go for them to win it by about 7 points. I genuinely think Meath have turned the corner under Robbie Brennan. I think they'll take some stopping in this year. I really do believe that. So, yeah, Peter saying Jordan Morris versus Luke Loughlin. That's one of the clashes of the weekend. But yeah, that is all the games previewed and predicted for the Hurling and Football Championships that will be taking place this weekend. They're the only 2 codes on. And yeah, my dog's saying goodbye to you there. We're going to wrap the show up there. We will see you all on Sunday live for the weekend review show at 8 p.m. And don't forget, our full Hurling Championship preview will drop tomorrow at 1 p.m. over your lunch break if you are in work. So do keep an eye out for that. And we'll also be dropping plenty of reels from that episode that are probably going to get some opinions turning and everything like that. So yeah, keep an eye out for that one. We will see you all on Sunday at 8 p.m. Thanks so much to everybody who got involved in the comments. It really helped to make that episode another very enjoyable one. See you all Sunday. Until then, it's all right. Instinct, baby.